It all started on a Tuesday, usually the most forgettable day of the week. But this Tuesday, Arthur Finch made a decision that would change his life. He wanted to marry a statue. Not a person, not a pet, a statue in the town square. The news didn't just ripple through his small town. It exploded online. A man, seemingly ordinary, wanted to wed a piece of carved stone. The world stopped to stare. It sounded like a prank, but Arthur was completely serious. Suddenly, he was the most talked about man on the internet. Love, we think, fits into neat boxes. Romantic, familial, platonic. Arthur's story didn't fit any box. He wasn't a performance artist or an attention seeker. He was just a man who found a connection so profound, he wanted to formalize it. The statue had stood in the town square for over a century, unnoticed by most. To Arthur, she was everything. His quiet act of conviction became a public spectacle. The first reports trickled out. Now, local man plans, nuptials with civic monument. People laughed, shared, and tagged their friends. But as the story spread, fascination replaced laughter. Was Arthur unwell, a hopeless romantic? The questions multiplied. Arthur Finch became a phenomenon, a hashtag, a meme, the statue guy. His private feeling was now public property. The internet, hungry for the unusual, had found its main course. Arthur was about to learn that when you become a story online, you lose control of the narrative. He just wanted to express his love. Instead, he invited the world into his life. The statue was the Maiden of the Lake, carved from white marble over a century ago. She stood in the town's main park, overlooking a pond, serene, almost sad, one hand outstretched. For most, she was just a landmark, a meeting point, a backdrop. But Arthur saw her differently. He visited her for years, sitting on a bench opposite her in every season. He watched the sun make her marble glow, the rain trace tears down her cheeks. He talked to her about his day, his worries, his joys. In her silent presence, he found peace people never gave him. The maiden was based on a local legend, a woman waiting by the water for a love who never returned. She symbolized eternal devotion and quiet sorrow. Arthur saw a kindred spirit in her story. The statue's mythology gave her a soul. Arthur didn't just fall for marble, he fell for the story she embodied. This connection grew slowly, over thousands of quiet moments. In a loud, chaotic world, the statue was his sanctuary. She was perfect, unchanging, never disappointing. For Arthur, this wasn't a lack of life, it was perfection. He wasn't in love with an object, but with the idea she represented. A steady, beautiful, eternal presence in an imperfect world. To Arthur, she was not scenery, she was everything. And that made all the difference. Arthur didn't hold a press conference or send a press release. He simply walked into the town clerk's office and asked for a marriage license. Brenda, the clerk, asked for his intended's name. Arthur pointed out the window. Her, the Maiden of the Lake. Brenda thought it was a joke, but Arthur was sincere. The story could have ended there, a strange, private moment. But Brenda told her husband, who told a friend, who told a reporter. By morning, a small article appeared. Man seeks to wed town statue. Someone posted it online and the match was lit. The post was shared hundreds, then thousands of times. Major news sites picked it up, giving it punchy headlines. It was weird, funny, a little sad, perfect for viral fame. Suddenly, people everywhere were experts on Arthur's love life. The internet had found its new protagonist. One moment, Arthur was anonymous. The next, his face was everywhere. The town clerk's office was flooded with calls. Reporters descended on the town. Satellite trucks parked by the statue. Arthur's simple request became an international incident. He hadn't sought the spotlight, but it found him. His quiet life was dissected by millions. The story was no longer his, the world had claimed it, and Arthur was swept along for the ride. The internet's reaction was a tidal wave. First came the humor, memes, photoshopped movie posters, endless jokes. For a day or two, Arthur and his stone bride were the internet's favorite punchline. Then came the analysis, think pieces, debates, TV panels. Was this about loneliness? Objectophilia? Society's failings? Arthur became a case study, a symbol of something bigger. Then the judgment hit. Anonymous commenters called him crazy, pathetic, sick. The story became a canvas for people's fears and prejudices. Arthur, the man, disappeared, replaced by a caricature. The media fed the frenzy, digging into his past, interviewing neighbors. The spectacle grew, Less about Arthur's experience, more about the clicks. He was no longer a person, just fuel for the content machine. The media didn't just report the phenomenon, they created and sustained it. The digital deluge was relentless. To understand Arthur, we have to look at objectum sexuality, OS. It's a recognized orientation where people form deep romantic bonds with objects. For those with OS, the object is the partner, not a prop. They see personality, even consciousness, in things others see as lifeless. These relationships are often more stable than human ones. The object is always there, never lies, never leaves. For some, especially those who've struggled with human relationships, this is comforting. Psychologists are still studying OS. Some link it to neurological conditions or the autism spectrum. Objects offer a safe, predictable relationship. Arthur's story became a spectacle, but at its heart was a private reality. He wasn't making a statement, he was living his truth. Our rigid ideas about love are challenged by stories like his. It forces us to ask, what is love really? For Arthur, the maiden was not an it, she was Elara. He believed she had a personality, calm, patient, a wonderful listener. Anthropomorphism, giving human traits to objects, is common, but for Arthur, it was the foundation of a real relationship. With Elara, he found unconditional acceptance. People had always been difficult for him. With her, there was no pressure. Her silence was a space for him to exist without judgment. She was his soulmate, not in spite of being stone, but because of it. Others with objectum sexuality, like Erica Eiffel, describe similar bonds. These are not frivolous attachments. They're deep, meaningful, and private. The desire to formalize them is a desire for recognition. The real harm came not from Arthur's love, but from the public reaction. His story tests the boundaries of our empathy. Can we accept love in forms we don't understand? For Arthur, his stone soulmate was a source of comfort in a confusing world. The internet's reaction was split. On one side, shaming, cruel jokes, threats, doxing. Arthur's sanctuary became a place of danger, swarming with reporters and gawkers. He stopped being a person and became an object of scorn. But another side emerged: support. Online communities for objectum sexuality reached out. Support groups for the autism spectrum offered compassion. Hashtags like "Love is Love" and "Support Arthur" pushed back against hate. People defended his right to love as he chose. Messages of support poured in. A GoFundMe was started. The internet can be a weapon of humiliation, but also a tool for solidarity. Arthur was shamed by one internet, embraced by another. His story revealed the dual nature of our connected world. For every troll there was quartz, every troll browsel, there was a voice of kindness, and that made all the difference. Arthur's story raises tough questions about viral fame. The media rushed for clicks, ignoring nuance and humanity. They turned a vulnerable person into global entertainment. As consumers, we're complicit. Every share, every joke, adds to the storm. It's easy to forget there's a real person behind the screen. Viral fame is involuntary, often brutal, and leaves wreckage behind. The internet creates celebrities, then abandons them. We must ask, is this story punching down? Are we contributing to public shaming? The ethics of viral fame are everyone's responsibility. Arthur's story is a cautionary tale. We need to be kinder, more thoughtful participants in the digital world. Arthur's story says more about us than him. We crave the strange, the stories that break the mold. The internet is a digital circus, and people like Arthur are pushed into the center ring. We stare, laugh, and judge, reassuring ourselves that we're normal. But maybe our fascination comes from quiet recognition. In a lonely world, Arthur's longing for connection resonates. His story is an extreme version of a common human desire, to be seen and loved, without complication. We may have laughed, but a part of us understood. The tale of the man who tried to marry a statue will be a strange footnote in internet history, but it should remind us of our capacity for both cruelty and compassion. Arthur just wanted his love recognized. Instead, the world turned his heart into content and moved on. And that, perhaps, is the strangest part of all.